In the recent decade, we've been seeing a pretty large shift in college hockey, where players like Cale Makar play junior A instead of playing in the CHL so that they can pursue college hockey. And this route has proved to have massive benefits. To start, the NCAA, just from a development standpoint, has been getting much more attractive. As you don't have to deal with AHL restrictions, the competition is generally higher, and if you don't make the NHL, well, you come out with education. So I mean, not a bad deal. And on top of this, if a player decides to play 3 years in the NCAA, they can opt to go into free agency, even if they were a first round pick, which has always been a pretty controversial topic, and many fans even consider it to be a loophole, but it was agreed upon in the CBA. And because of this quote-unquote loophole, we have seen many players who refused to sign with their drafted team and instead went into free agency and had free pickings at whichever team they wanted. So in today's video, we're going to go over players who refused to sign with their drafted team. We're going to try to understand why they didn't want to play for their team and where they are now, because many people consider this to be a bad karma move, so I guess we'll see. So has your team ever lost or even gained a player due to this clause? Comment down below, I'd love to hear, and press subscribe for some more awesome content. Let's get straight into this video. We'll start with the Adam Fox saga. Drafted in the 3rd round in 2016, Fox was an elite skating offensive defenseman who some scouts actually had in the 1st round. However, he would fall all the way to the 3rd round because of a lack of physicality and a lack of defensive play. And the fact that many teams knew that Fox was going to play out 3 to 4 years in college, which he ended up doing. As Adam Fox played 3 years for Harvard, and he dominated. As he walked in as a rookie defenseman and put up an incredible 40 points in 35 games. Which of course made many Flames fans very excited, as they had a potential top 2 defender who was a 3rd round steal. And the next season, Fox would hit a minor sophomore slump as he put up 28 points in 29 games, but regardless, he was developing extremely well. However, this is where we first caught winds of Adam Fox not wanting to sign in Calgary. And Fox wouldn't make an actual statement saying he wouldn't sign in Calgary, but it was highly speculated, as Fox would then be included in a blockbuster deal that sent Dougie Hamilton and Michael Furlan to Carolina for Elise Lindholm and Noah Hannafin. And so finally, in Fox's final year in Harvard, he would put up an astounding 48 points in 33 games. Just incredible numbers, but he'd lose the Hobey Baker Award to who else but Cale Makar. However, Adam Fox would tragically break the hearts of 2 entire fan bases, as he would state that he had no intention of signing with the Hurricanes. And so Carolina would be pigeonholed in trading Fox to the Rangers, and in compensation they received a dismal 2nd and 3rd round pick. Which is a decent return considering that his intentions were public, but a very dismal return considering he had massive upside. Because this season Adam Fox has been a stud, 42 points in 70 games, in a very impressive defensive game. And I'm definitely not shocked whatsoever because Fox has always displayed this upside, but it's definitely a big shame for Calgary and Carolina, who both had their hearts broken. Next, we have Kevin Hayes. Drafted in the 1st round in 2010, Hayes was actually an off-the-board pick, as he was actually ranked as a 2nd, if not 3rd round pick by most scouts. But this was also connected to the fact that Hayes was playing high school hockey, so he was very underscouted. But regardless, the Chicago Blackhawks would jump on him in the 1st round. And so Kevin Hayes would go on to play 4 seasons with Boston College. And honestly, Hayes was a bit of a wild card. Standing in at 6'5" with good puck skills, he had the stature to be a star, but he could have just as easily not translated his game outside of high school hockey. However, with Boston College, Hayes would develop extremely well every single year, as he put up 4 goals and 14 points in year 1, and in year 4, he would put up a very impressive 65 points in 40 games. So definitely some drastic improvement. So flash forward to 2014, Kevin Hayes decided he'd opt for free agency, which was definitely a surprise considering that Chicago at this point was a highly desirable team. But Kevin Hayes, just like Adam Fox, opted to sign with the New York Rangers, which is honestly a pretty big trend, as New York seems to be a very big hotspot as they attract a lot of free agency talent and I guess just NCAA stars. And Kevin Hayes with the Rangers would transition very well, with 45 points in his 1st season, and not until last year did Hayes fully break out into star status, as he put up a very impressive 42 points in 51 games, and then would be traded to Winnipeg for a playoff push. And then kinda out of nowhere, he'd sign a monster $50 million contract with the Flyers. So unfortunately for the Blackhawks, not only did they lose a first round pick, but that pick turned into a star player. Next, we have Will Butcher and Alex Kerfoot, who not only refused to sign with their drafted teams, but they had actually swapped teams in a fairly odd situation. And to start, Alex Kerfoot was actually drafted in the 5th round by the New Jersey Devils, as Kerfoot would actually be a pretty big steal as he played Junior A instead of playing in the WHL. And after a fairly long 5-year development curve, Kerfoot would blossom into an elite skating playmaker, as he went from scoring 14 points in his first year to 45 points in his final season, while of course being the captain of Harvard. And so Kerfoot would actually reject New Jersey due to them having too many centers in their system. And so instead, he opted to play in Colorado. And funny enough, Kerfoot would actually reject a contract from Vancouver, which was his hometown team, but again, I think Joe Sakic is a pretty persuasive guy. And Kerfoot would go on to have a great rookie season where he put up 43 points in 79 games, and then 1 year later, alongside of Tyson Barrie, he'd be traded to the Leafs for Nazem Kadri. And I still feel like Kerfoot has a lot more to offer, as he's never really been in a solid top 6 role. And then we also have Will Butcher, who weirdly enough was also a 5th round pick. But Butcher would also have a prolific time in the NCAA. And coming from the USDP, Butcher was honestly a massive steal, as he was passed on because he was smaller framed. And so playing for the University of Denver, Will Butcher would develop into a premier offensive defenseman, and would actually win the Hobey Baker Award in 2017 as he put up a very impressive 37 points in 43 games, alongside of winning the NCAA championship. And what's weird about Butcher's case is that it's fairly common to see players who want to play in a different location, maybe they don't want to join a specific system, coaching staff issues, or perhaps they want to play close to home. But for Butcher's case, he was literally a hometown hero, as he was the captain of the University of Denver, but he would reject Colorado's offer. And instead, he would sign with the Devils. And in his rookie season, Butcher would put up an extremely impressive 44 points in 81 games, and was showing the signs of a potential top 2 puck-moving defender. However, Butcher has been regressing every year since. But Butcher still definitely has some great upside and will be a big piece in the Devils' rebuild. Next, we have the Jimmy Vesey sweepstakes, because this free agency signing was a lot different. Drafted in the 3rd round by the Nashville Predators, Vesey actually opted to play in the EJHL, so he was very much a case of being underscouted. Because Vesey was a large, gifted goal-scoring winger who would go on to put on a clinic in the NCAA, as he slowly developed into one of the biggest NCAA free agent signings in NHL history. Because in 2015, he would put up an astounding 32 goals in 37 games, and the next season, Vesey would put up 46 points in 33 games as the captain of Harvard. And he'd also take home the Hobey Baker Award. And so after declaring he would not sign with Nashville, every team in the NHL was targeting Vesey in the 2016 NHL offseason. In fact, the Buffalo Sabres would trade for his exclusive rights to try to negotiate a contract. He was literally headlining news articles when he was deciding on the team he was going to sign with. So of course, like many free agents in the past, Jimmy Vesey would sign with the Rangers. However, Vesey would not be the elite talent everyone thought he would be. He wasn't a bust by any means, but definitely a tad disappointing, as he put up 27 points in 80 games, and he never broke out as that elite talent in New York. And funny enough, Vesey would end up being traded to Buffalo, so the team that expressed the most interest, for a 3rd round pick. And this season, he has continued to regress, with 9 goals and 20 points, which is unfortunately a far stretch from the elite star everyone thought Vesey would become. And we will end with Justin Schultz. Drafted by the Ducks in 2008, Schultz was another example of being underscouted, as Schultz was an elite puck-moving defender who was basically a hidden gem playing Junior A. And Justin would take a long development path, as he played 1 more season in the BCHL and followed that up with 3 seasons in the NCAA, where Schultz would develop into one of the most intriguing free agent signings in the past 2 decades, as he was seen as an NHL-ready, elite puck-moving defender who would only cost a maximum of $3.75 million, which was extremely attractive, as Schultz would put up 44 points in 37 games in his final year, and would declare that he was not going to sign with the Ducks. Which would mean that we had another sweepstakes on our hands, as there was a reported 26 teams desperately trying to acquire Schultz. However, in honestly a pretty weird fashion, Schultz would sign with the Oilers. And don't get me wrong, I'm an Edmonton fan myself, but I always found this one to be confusing. Because Edmonton isn't the most attractive destination for a free agent, and they had a pretty bad development track record at this time. And Schultz would enter the partial lockout season in the minors, and he lived up to all the hype. 18 goals, 48 points, and 34 games as a defender, on top of a very respectable 27 points in 48 NHL games. So definitely a great start to his NHL career. However, in a classic Edmonton fashion, Schultz would regress every single season afterwards. Because in his final season, Schultz would put up 10 points in 45 games and have a very questionable defensive game. And so he was traded to Pittsburgh for a 3rd round pick. But fortunately in Pittsburgh, Schultz has won 2 Stanley Cups and has definitely bounced back his game, as he's been a very good top 4 talent. So again, maybe Edmonton was the issue, I guess, maybe. Anyways guys, has your team ever lost or even gained a player because of the NCAA? Comment down below, I'd love to know. And press subscribe for some more awesome content. Thank you guys so much for watching. We are on the road for 20K, let's crush it. I hope all you guys are doing well. See you guys later.